Welcome to Brown Girl Book Lover. I'm Leslie Ann Murray. Today I have Monica West, and we are going to be talking about her book, Revival Season. Born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, Monica West received her BA from Duke University, her MA from New York University, and her MFA from the Iowa Writers Workshop, where she was a Rona Jaffa Graduate Fellow. She was a Southern Methodist University Kimbilio Fellow in 2014, go Kimby, and she will be a Hedgebrook Writer in Residence in 2021. Revival Season is her first novel. Monica, welcome to
Yes.
Book Lover.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, Monica, why don't you tell us about your book?
Yeah. So Revival Season is the story of 15-year-old Miriam Horton, who is the oldest daughter of a Baptist minister and revival preacher. And over the course of this one summer, at the beginning of the book, Miriam witnesses an act of violence that her father commits on the revival circuit, that then when they get back home to their home church in their house in Texas, forces Miriam to just question everything that she's known to be true about her father, about her family, about faith, about doubt, and then step into some kind of new power that she realizes that she might possess. That is something that she feels like she has, but if stepping into that then means fracturing her ties with her family and her church, because the thing that she has discovered about herself is something that the church has told her is not something that girls can do. So that's Revival Season in a nutshell.
This book is about really like looking at religion and looking at Black evangelicals.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to know, why is it important to talk about the Black church and how it intersects with Black lives?
One of the things the book is interrogating is the patriarchy in religious practice, and in like Protestant Christianity. I'm not speaking about Catholicism, and the ways, and I'm not saying that it doesn't exist and doesn't occur in white evangelicalism, because it does. Just for me, this book has to be about Black people and the ways that church is this really huge part of Black culture. It is a way that many people are raised. And it becomes this thing that we don't question. Or let me for a thing that I don't question. I didn't question, because when you're raised a certain way, you think this is how it is, this is how it has to be, this is how it will always be. And to come to a space where you feel as though that may not be true is a really difficult thing. And so, though I think the book points to this larger issue with patriarchal religion, I have to use the lens of the Black church, because that's the lens that I am comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for me to critique something. You can critique something from any specific place. It's easier for me to critique something from being inside. And so that's the culture I was raised in. That's the culture that, nurtured me. And I can critique that because I'm intimately familiar with it. And so it has to be about the harm that the church inflicts on mostly women, men too, but the most acutely felt is people in positions that don't have as much power. And I could have done this book this book is about women, but I could have done this book about the LGBTQ community. I could have done this book about so many people on whom the church has inflicted harm. I just chose to do it about women and girls. And so it matters to me because I wanted to shine a light on something that I didn't have language for a really long time, but I felt really strongly about, this dichotomy and this kind of separation between women and men, and these things that men do without question, do to women without punishment, and the ways in which people subscribe to that a lot and buy into it.
It's interesting that so many things about the Black church.
Yep.
Where do I start?
We could have an hours long conversation about the Black church.
I think one of the most interesting thing is that I think the Black church is, patriarchy is such embedded in part of the culture, right? But so the majorities of the membership are women.
Yeah.
And I'm always stunned about this, right? Like,
Mhm.
and they are upholding the patriarchy as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know why. I used to go to church when I was younger and I stopped because I was just like, I cannot deal with this. There were so many contradictions that I couldn't live with. And especially, I didn't want to feel minute because being a woman, especially a girl, well, I wasn't even a woman, a girl in that space has no voice at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And what's really fascinating,
like,
I'm sorry.
I said, I love that you shine that light.
Thank you. I think that what you comment on is so interesting to me, because when I think of church growing up, I think of men behind the pulpit and pretty much everything else is women, right? The idea of kind of who's running the show, who are the caretakers, for example, kind of who taught me in Sunday school, who those types of things, that's women. And yet women are the backbone of the church in so many ways, but in ways that are really invisible, and in ways that men choose to make invisible, right? This idea of women's service is seen as, and I try to show this with Miriam and her mother, which is, they're serving the men dinner and they're doing all these things that are really domestic and are considered less important. But at the same time, their work keeps the men doing what they do. This idea of like them feeding them and they've kind of made them these second and third class citizens. And yet the church functions on their labor, and their labor goes unnoticed and unrecognized. And so does their devotion. This idea of kind of Miriam is the beginning of the book. Miriam is devout and she's a true believer. And we watch abuse repeatedly heaped on her and on her mom. And what does that look like? What does that look like when, and then Miriam's actual acts of real religious service, there are the moments I tried to convey with her and Hannah, that's religion to me, right? This idea of kind of selflessness and service and doing something for the greater good. In the beginning, Miriam shifts towards the end, but that is religion to me. And that gets completely overlooked because the idea of religion and the idea of church is men speaking, but we see Samuel not living anything close to what he's speaking. The people who are living it are the women.
Yeah, definitely. I know we are not political scientists, but we're writers and English majors.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm thinking about like, why are we driven to someone who seems like they're the most powerful one with all the answers?
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
I have no idea, but it does go beyond religion, because you're like political scientists. What is it about charisma? What is it about what we call magnetism or presence, and the ways that we think about a lot of that is really male, right?
Yeah.
Thinking about the ways that when we talk about, we could see with this last election or even the 2016 election, which is to display this sense of presence and power and owning something and owning a space. When a woman does it, what does it look like and what's it called? When a man does it, what does it look like and what is it called? And why are we so hardwired to accept what traditional male leadership looks like? And kind of indict women for if they attempt that. But yeah, what is it in us that wants to feel soothed by really smooth words or really quick answers? And I get sucked up in it too. I absolutely have that moment of, oh my gosh, look at how you want to believe and you want to kind of go along. And then you kind of have to wonder a little bit about what is that in us that wants that? What is it in us that wants that type of leadership? versus something that's more quiet and more reserved and takes up less space.
Yeah.
What is that for us? And why do we have that? Why do we want that?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I guess we can write about it. We may never know.
Yeah.
We can write about it, right?
Yep.
Do you think we will see more literature from Black women talking about the Black church? We have Delia Filia, we have you, and we're in this literary renaissance, thank God, where Black writers and writers of color are on the main stage.
I hope so. I mean, I hope it, but religion is such a complicated and fraught topic to write about. And so even as I'm writing this book, I'm opening the floodgates for every possible bit of something to be thrown back at me. And that's okay. But I think that you have to, number one, shine a light on something. Otherwise it stays the way it is. And number two, you need to give space to other people to do something really similar. So hopefully that this opens a conversation that you're talking about for more Black writers, more writers of color to expose something or to write about something that feels so fraught. You don't talk about religion and politics, the two things. And I'm writing about religion and Black religion in particular. And that's terrifying. And also hopefully that's freeing and gives other people the space to think that it's possible.
Okay, Monica, Wes, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for talking about your book, Revival.
Yay.
I love the prose. It was so beautiful. There's so many check marks in my book, girl.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, damn. Thank you so much for being a Brown Girl Book Lover, and much success to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a joy to talk to you.
No problem.